So basically, we together will go through the course which is called Programming in Python. And the idea is that this course is designed for total beginners. So if someone of you didn't code before, it's like perfect. We will work together through the tasks, and you will get some skills in programming. And in the beginning, I want just like to introduce myself. So my name is Vladimir Sukhov, and right now I'm working at WashU. So it's Washington University in St. Louis. I'm a computational biologist or computational scientist. Mostly, to be honest, I'm programming in R, but still remember a little bit of Python, and because of that I will give lectures about Python. Today it's gonna be very chill, I think. Maybe we will start programming a little bit. And I hope that you saw the message that I sent about the Python installation. So it's really good to have it done. And in case if you faced with some issues along the way, please just send me the message. You can use the help channel or help topic in the Telegram group, and I will help you for sure. So yeah, usually I start with this like crazy slide. Basically, I don't know, maybe some of you saw this movie or maybe not. And this is about my expectation about the students and why I even put it here. So basically, it's Al Pacino from the movie which is called like Serpico. And my expectation is not that you will be a homeless person, but it's more about that in this movie, the person was working in the police department and he was like super honest. He didn't take any bribes. And so for me, it was like as a symbol of the perfect student, where the student is not like cheating, not trying to cheat, and just the idea is that the student honest with himself or with herself and trying to get knowledge. And basically, yeah, so I hope that you will try to solve tasks which will be along the course yourself. I know that nowadays it's like very hard to resist to the temptation to use AI and just like to drop the tasks there and say like, okay, solve it. So definitely you can do it. I mean, it's not a problem. So people can just like, for example, copy paste the task descriptions. And so last year I saw that people were doing it, but in my mind, it's like ruins the whole idea where you try to get some skills, because okay, yeah, AI can resolve all these tasks, but they made for you, not for AI. And I hope that you will try first time to solve some task yourself. And even if you use AI, not to ask, just like to give it your solution right away, but just trying to really figure out some things and how they work. And basically about the course structure, you can find it so there is a link. You can go over this link and just check what's going on, what's supposed to be in the course. I already sent you a couple links which refer to this page in the first announcement message. So basically, this is a website where you can go and there are some like explanations about everything what is supposed to be in the course. And yeah, today I want just like to tell about my idea about how I see the programming. And so for me, Python, it's just a language which allows me to communicate. And in case of the regular language, you can think about it as, for example, that you went on a traveling trip to some country, and locals there, they don't speak your native language. So for example, let's say that I am from Russia and I went to, I don't know, let's say Czech Republic, and people there, they're speaking on a Czech, and I cannot understand them right away, right? And to communicate with them, I need the translator. So nowadays we can use just, for example, phone and translate from English. In this case, it's like Spanish, doesn't matter. And what Python does for us, it allows us to communicate with computers. Basically, the idea is that we are going to learn some language. And this language will allow us to communicate with a computer. We will say like, okay, for example, this is my data, huge amount of data, I don't know, terabytes or something like that. And then you can say, okay, now I want you to do something. and there is a rules, syntax rules about the language that we will learn, and then computer can understand us and perform the actions. Nowadays, you can see that there is like some shift to, for example, what is called like a vibe coding, where you just like specifying like in like not very formal way the description of the task. You just use like regular words without very strict restrictions about how the construction should look like, for example, for ChatGPT or something like that, and then it resolves some tasks. Which is very nice. But in this case, we will learn like language, and there are like very strict rules about how we should form our statements, and then computer can understand and perform some actions for us. Yeah, so this is a installation guides. Basically, there is a guide for Windows, for Linux. For Mac, I didn't add it yet, but I believe that there are plenty ways to install Mac. And you can find them in internet. So probably I believe that there's supposed to be an option very easy by using the homebrew package manager and just install it to your computer. Yeah, so guys, and if you have any questions, you can always interrupt me, ask them. So it's like I'm like very happy to answer any questions if you have them. And also about like how I see the philosophy about the programming. The idea is, in my mind, that we have our like real world, which is like around us, and we want to model some part of it using modeling, and then put these models into computer and perform something with these models. Usually we want to predict something, some outcomes. For example, you can think about, I don't know, predicting the stock market or whatever. It could be anything, for example, the weather forecast. And yeah, usually the idea is something like that. And just to highlight some examples that fascinate me, the first one, it's a black hole image. So right now you can see that there is the image of the black hole. And basically you can think about it that it's like super fuzzy, blurry image, and what is the point of it? But basically it's like the first image that humans took of the black hole. And to just give you the understanding about how much of data required to get this particular image, this is an example. So if you have an interstellar movie size here, basically it's like, let's say that in a very high quality, you can download it from, for example, some sources, and it's going to be around like 100 gigabytes, and data that was required to get this black hole image. So it's this like stack of all this all of these kind of same circles, but you can understand that it was like a very massive amount of data. So this part, it's about the related to astronomy, to the space, but also you can look under the microscope to some things, and you will realize that amount of the data sometimes can be comparable. Basically here we can see right now the multiplexed tissue image, and how to look at this image. Basically each color here represents one particular protein, and if I remember correctly, this is a tonsil, and you can see that there are some germinal centers and some like parts which are like outside of germinal centers, and you can color each protein by its own color. And the idea that then you have this very nice image, which is called like immunofluorescence imaging. And what is interesting that, for example, sometimes you can have, for example, let's say 1 by 1 centimeter imaging area, and raw data of the images can easily be like couple terabytes. And in this case, we cannot like manually analyze them anymore, and we need to learn some programming. We need to get some programming skills to be able to automate some processes. And this is an example about which is like related to nowadays biology. Basically, so right now it's like one of the cutting edge technologies where you can, for example, perform imaging of multiple proteins on the same slide and then analyze the structure. Basically, usually people are interested about what kind of interactions are happening between different cell types, and also you could be interested about different, I don't know. So for example, maybe some interesting rare cell type you can identify through this technology, because in this case you will get information about all cells that you have on a slide. And then, yeah, so the idea is that you analyze it, you got some results, publish the paper. Or just like had fun during the visualizations. It also could be possible. And about Python flow, so in our course we will mostly see the following flow. We have some input data, and it can be mostly everything that can be represented as a matrix or like as a text file. You can think about data tables. Basically, it's like same as Google spreadsheets. You can have as an input data images, music, videos, etc. And then we have our Python program. So this is gonna be just like a text file where we specify in the Python language what we want to perform. And yeah, so Python then takes this file data and performs some, for example, calculations and give us back. So these steps are basically optional. There could be some Python program which doesn't take any input and doesn't provide any output, but hard to imagine what is the idea of such program. Basically, in most cases, we have some input data and then we have some output data. And yeah, for example, you can take images, then measure something. For example, you can count how many cells were in the image and organize it in the way of the data table. Or you can do it like vice versa. You can take the data table, measure some statistics, and then draw, for example, some charts, and it's gonna be images. So this was like about some slides, and now let's just start programming a little bit. Basically, yeah, so, and I have questions, guys, for you. So did you have already some short introduction to Linux?
In general or during this study program?
During this program?
No.
Okay, so then anyway, I already put it the information about how to install Python, and then also there is a link to some sandbox where you can try to work with some basic commands in terminal. And in my mind, it's very important because, for example, there are like a lot of tools which are written and they exclusively work with the Linux-like systems. And it's better to know it because at some moment you will need to, for example, run something on a cluster because let's say that you want to align some of your reads to the reference genome. Usually it's very huge files, you need like a lot of RAM, and because of that usually you want to do it on the cluster, and in this case most of the times they work under the Linux, and you need to know some basics about how to, for example, work with directories, create them, remove them, and so on. So right now this is the terminal that I have, and I am like in the home directory. So basically the shorthand, it's this like wave symbol, and then we can just list all things which are like under this directory. You can see that I have, for example, different folders, and I created one particular folder which I call teaching. And then, yeah, so we can change directory by using cd command and go to the teaching. Then you can again check what's inside of this folder. And basically it's like this very similar to the one that you can perform by using file explorers. So let me just show you. For example, I will open the same folder in the file manager, and you can see so that yes, indeed I was like in the home directory, and when I used ls, I just list all the folders that you're like in my home directory. Then I went to teaching. So basically it's like the same way as we do it with the graphical user interface. And then, so I used ls again. And so we can see that the Python is like just one folder in this teaching folder. So guys, I have a question for you. What do you think about this like command line interpreter or way of working? So what are the advantages and disadvantages of using, for example, command line with some commands there compared to the graphical user interface?
You need to memorize commands because you can just use mouse clicks.
So is it an advantage that we need to memorize?
Disadvantage.
Okay, disadvantage. Maybe some other disadvantages. Let's just like roast the command line interface.
One of the main disadvantages of command line is that you can forget one or more spaces and nothing will work.
Okay, yeah, sometimes it can happen.
I think one of the advantages is, for example, you need to create a folder, and it's sometimes quickly to do in command line, make dir, and that's all. On laptop or PC, you need to click, create, change the name.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
for example, you need to move a lot of files with specific name, or maybe specific files to another folder. It's quickly to do it in command line than to to click on every file and then copy paste or something else.
Yeah, I see. It's a valid point. Totally agree. Maybe some other guys. Let's just try to.
Command line doesn't have extended hints or AI assistant.
Yeah, I believe that nowadays probably you can sometimes.
You can include.
Yeah, but by default, so you don't have it for sure. Yeah. So maybe something else, guys, or that's it.
Are we ruining command line or what?
Whatever you want, you can like you can choose your side, or you can be on both sides. You can just like try to say that it's like super bad and we should not ever use it, or you can say that no, it's like okay, we should use it, and just like what are the points?
Well, it depends because sometimes you need to connect to the cluster, and cluster only uses command line. You can use some kind of tools that facilitate the file exchanges between server and your PC, but I think that for a daily use, you need to use graphical user interface, but the command line is more flexible and more powerful. Like you don't need to open file to understand that there is some words in this file. For example, grep command. You just need to use grep, like in command line. Then you can use pipe and, for example, take all the lines containing some kind of, like, I don't know, RSID
Okay.
from VC.
Yeah. So I'm totally on your side, guys. Basically, yes, the idea is that sometimes it depends on the task for sure. I'll just like add some points that I have in my mind. For example, about command line interface, what is like very nice that I can easily share, for example, set of commands with another person, and then I know that if person like performs the same that I specified in my, for example, set of commands, the expectation that the person will get the same result. With the graphical user interface, I can, for example, perform a screencast and save the like a recording of the process that I did, but it's like then painful to repeat it. I need like to watch the video, be very specific about what to do. With command line, so since it's like just text, I can copy paste and provide it to another person. And also, what I think very interesting about command line, that sometimes, for example, if we need like to rename some like bunch of things, or we need to create like set of folders, something like that, then the command line interface can resolve these things much faster. Yeah, basically, and now we are inside of the folder which is called Python 2025. There is a folder week001, and now I'm inside of this folder. And basically what I want to do is like create our first Python program. To do this, we can use, for example, touch command and then specify the name of the file. And let's call it first program. And what we want to do also, we want to specify the extension of the file, which is a .py, py for Python. That means that we will create a Python file. Yeah, so basically I executed this command, and then again, if we take a look on the in the like file explorer, we can see that yeah, we indeed created the file which is called first program. Yeah. Guys, don't try to repeat it, right? But yeah, so sometimes it can be dangerous if you don't know what you are doing. You can sometimes like probably break something easily. Yeah, so right now we created our first program, and now you can, for example, use whatever you want for editing the file. This is a just text file, and in the Linux system, so you can use Nano or anything else. I don't have any preferences. You can use, for example, the Visual Studio Code, open the file, and then write something here. So I believe that I have the Copilot enabled, and because of that, I'll try not to use the Visual Studio Code. But basically, the idea is that usually you have the text editor in the same way as a Notepad has. You can write something here. So, for example, print and then print something. What is nice that it's like provide you, for example, the file explorer on the side. You can also search in the files and all other things which you can also use. For example, if you're working with a Git version control system or with Docker containers, you have like a lot of extensions. Yeah, so it's like super nice. You can use it. Yeah. But I'll try to not do it here. I will just try to... Why my hand is raised? And I just... Okay, I don't know how it works. Let's just modify this file. And we will just put one statement here. You can just repeat with me. So let's write print, and basically print is a built-in function in Python that allows us to print something to standard output. Okay. And now we can specify something inside of the print function. To do that, I will put double quotes, and I need to enclose my message here. So, and let's just put some statement here. So, for example, hi from the Python, something like that. Now we need to save the file. I just like put this command to the file. I can, for example, display what is the content of the file by using the cat function. So, and you can see that in our file we have just like one line, which is print hi from the Python. And now if you installed Python on your machine, you can just put Python and specify the name of the file. Let's execute it, and you can see that we got the output from our program that we wrote. And this is our first program, guys. Congrats if you're following with me. So we wrote our first Python program, and yeah, so super simple, right? Do you have, guys, any questions about this part?
I have one a little bit more complicated question. So when we use Python, like we call the Python executive files directly, we don't need to change mode for our program, yes?
Yeah, you
Change
mean
mode
what kind?
plus
Yeah, sorry. What kind of mod you mean? You mean like?
change mode that makes a file or program executable in Linux. So when we specify like Python, we don't need to make our program executable, yes?
Yeah, right. So yeah, usually you can, for example, have just program. So as I got it correctly, you are asking, so for example, can I write something like that, our first program, and try to execute it, and we will not, so because we don't have executable permission, and also, if I remember correctly, we need to put the first line in the Python script that specifying what we're supposed to use to run this executable file. Yeah, but in our case, so
change mode plus X, yes.
Yeah. In our case, we will just mostly use Python and then specifying the name. And the idea is what is happening. So there is a program that we installed, and it's an interpreter. Then interpreter takes the file that we provided by the name, looks inside of the file. It goes through the lines and tries to just like execute them. And for example, if there is some problem, if we don't follow the language requirements, for example, let's say that I forgot to enclose the string here. So now I have my string, but I didn't put the double quote symbol in the end of the string. Right away, my editor is like helping me and saying that something is wrong. But if it's something super plain without anything on top of it, so for example, let's say that I opened it in another text editor, I don't see any hints about this program. So when I can think about it that, okay, everything is right, and then I can try to execute this program. So now, again, there is a problem that I didn't enclose the line. Let's just try to execute it, and we will see that in this case we got our first error, that basically there is something wrong, syntax error, and we can also read the message that is prompted by the error, and we can try to understand what happened. So unterminated string literal detected at line 1, and here is a place where this error happened, and now we can adjust it. We can open the program and then just fix it. Oops. Yeah, and then try to execute it one more time. And now it works. So, okay. Yeah, and basically now we will start to learn some things about Python. Let's just go over. I will open the web page. Yeah. Today we will start with working with the variables and data types in Python. And as I already told you, the idea is that we want to model real world by using the modeling process. And usually we don't want to, for example, get all features of the object. For example, in data science or in machine learning, sometimes you can see that you have a huge data table with a lot of features for different observations that you have. But in some cases, we don't need to use all of them. We just want to use a specific one. And in this case, we need to extract some features. And to represent these features in Python, we have some basic built-in data types that can help us to represent different things. And for this is just as an example, what can be a feature. Let's say that we want to model the car, and this is a car that we have, and we can be focused, for example, on the color of the car. Then we can be focused on the is it self-driving. In this case, we see that there is a person in the front, but it's like the person probably staring at the phone, but nevertheless, so we assume that it's not self-driving. And then also we can be interested about the number of seats in the car. And here we just see some basic examples of data types that Python has by default, and we can use them. So basically we will see today strings, Boolean data type, and also some numbers. And we will use heavily the print function for displaying results in our terminal. So let's check how the arithmetics works in Python. So we can use numbers without any problems in our programs. So let's just create a file. I'll call it numbers.py, and we can print, for example, anything, some number. And then we can execute it and see that we printed the result. Python has built-in function which allow us to check the data type of the object. To do that, we can use type of print, and then we can do the same. And you can see, so now we don't have this 42, but we have the data type of the object, which is an integer. Now let's, for example, change number a little bit. So for example, if we put the float part and execute it one more time, you can see that now number is not integer, it's a float number because we have a float part in it. And now let's just check some basic default commands that we can use. So basically we can add numbers, subtract numbers, multiply, divide. There are like two divisions in Python. One is just common division. For example, if you divide one value by another, the result will be float number. But sometimes you want to get just like an integer part of the division. And in this case, you can use double slash symbols for that. Yeah, there is a modulo operation. Basically, you can calculate the remainder of after the division. You can exponentiate the number, and also you can change the order of operations by using the parentheses. And let's just copy and paste different statements from here and put it to our file. So basically here we have that we try to sum numbers, subtract numbers, multiply, divide, perform integer division, calculate the result of the modulo operation, exponentiate number, and then change the order of the different operations. And now if let's just cat and then execute it. And this is just an example that you can use Python simply as a calculator without any problems. And yeah, so if you have any questions, guys, again, at any moment you can ask them. Yeah. What is interesting about this part, so that sometimes what kind of issue you can face. Let's say, so there is an example about it. If we try to calculate something like that, So basically we try to print the sum of 0.3, which we're trying to sum 3 times. And let's just put it here, and I will remove all of these parts. And now we have just like one statement inside of our file. And you can see that the result is not like 0.9. It's basically because when we try to calculate float numbers, there is always some error which can be accumulated. And sometimes you can face with an issue. And basically in these cases, usually if you want, for example, to compare that some float numbers are equal, usually you need to allow some small difference to be there. And it's just like as some side note. And now let's go to the strings. I think that for you, probably it could be the most interesting part. Here are just like examples about how to specify strings. We saw already one of an examples that we could specify string when we wrote our first program. This is some other examples how we can specify string. Basically in Python you can use single quotes to encapsulate your string. You can use double quotes to encapsulate your string. Also you can put triple double quotes or triple single quotes. This is basically used when you want to specify a multi-line string. And here are just an examples that you can write print line, also line, first line, second line, and so on. Then, there is a point that, for example, if you want to put a single quote as a real single quote inside of the string, you can use two different approaches. The first one is you can encapsulate your string by double quotes, and then you can use single quote inside of it and it's not gonna break anything. Or you can also use a backslash to encapsulate single quote. Let's just take a look on this example. I'll create a new file, I'll call it strings.py. And now everything is fine. So from this point I will use just a shortcut to run the program, but the idea is the same. So I just like executed Python with my file. And you can see this is an output of our program, which is like, I am a human. But now, for example, if we don't encapsulate this quote, we will have an error. You can see, again, we see the same error as we saw before, unterminated string literal. And why it's happened? Because Python thinks that this is a string, and then there is something which is strange. It cannot parse it. And to resolve this problem, we need to encapsulate our string. And then so it works perfectly. And also in case if we are using the double quote to specify our string, we can put as many single quotes inside and it's gonna work. So yeah, there is no problem with that. And so basically why strings are very interesting, I hope, because you can, you know about the genome data, right? That it's usually it's a huge string. That, for example, if you have some reference genome, it's a sequence of nucleotides, and then there are a huge field about different methods that are used for example, alignment or for searching some patterns inside of the huge strings. And so now you can at least, for example, specify something as your string, and then later on we will see that we can operate over strings and perform different actions. So let's say that we have some read. I don't know, I'll just put some random stuff. And this is just as an example of short read that you could get from, I don't know, from some type of experiment, and then you could be interested about where this read appears in the reference genome. And to resolve this issue, this task, there are a lot of different methods which are aimed to work with strings, and we will take a look on some of the examples along the course. Very like naive, super simple. We will not be focused on implementing the most efficient things about strings, just like to get familiar and to grasp the idea behind how strings are working. By default, Python provides us the way to operate with strings. Basically, we can concatenate or merge two strings into one by just simply placing them one after another. There is a white space separated between them. And then also the same thing if you put the plus symbol. So basically you're saying, I want to connect these two strings, and you will get a result. So yeah, you can see that the results are the same. We have hello world with the white space, because there is a white space inside of the second string. Then also you can multiply or like repeat string. Let's say that we want to repeat something 100 times. And you can see that we repeated the string. Yeah. Now let's take a look on the logical data type. And here is just as an example that when I think about logical data types, I always in my head there is a scene from the Matrix movie when Neo should choose between two pills. And basically you can think about it that he had two options, right? To take red and blue. And for example, we can ask ourselves, did he take red pill? And the answer is true or false. He either took it or not. And we want, for example, to describe the situation in our Python program. And in this case, we need to use a Boolean data type. Basically, Boolean data type has two instances. One it's a true and another is false. And you can use Boolean logic with logical variables. Basically, there is a logical AND, logical OR, and logical NOT. Let's just also copy paste it and put it to the editor. Guys, I have a question. So does someone try to go through the code with me? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Sounds cool. Yeah. I'm just like really encourage you to try at least. And if you have any issues, then again, just like say about that. Yeah. So you can easily copy and paste it. I will create a new file. I will call it like bool.py. Let's put it. And here are the examples of the Boolean logic. Basically, here we will have the result of true and true. And the first part, it's a string. We just put it here and separate it by the comma symbol, the next statement in the print statement. The idea is that this one is used just as an explanation. And the second one, it's a operation over the Boolean data type variables. Maybe, if be honest, the best thing it's let's just print, for example, that this works correctly. We have Boolean data type, and there are two instances, true and false. So we executed it, and Python understands it, that this is a true, this is a false. We don't need to put any type of the anything else. So we don't need to encapsulate it because it's a dedicated data type in Python. Now we can just double check that the type of, for example, true is a bool. Okay, and this is fine. And now why we want to have such objects inside of the Python, because as I said, we want sometimes to explain some logic and model some logic. And in this case, we need to be able to work with the Boolean logic. And now let's just execute it and let's go over. So basically true and true, result is true. true and false, false, false and true. I hope that you saw it before, basically, for example, in school, about the Boolean logic. And the idea is that by this we can specify different things and, for example, filter out cases which doesn't meet some criteria. Let's say that you want, for example, you have a very nice evening, you sit at home and you want to select a particular movie to watch. And then the idea is that you want to find, let's say you want to watch a drama movie, and also the score of the movie on IMDb or on another platform supposed to be high. And then you specify your criteria. The first criteria is you go through the database of your movies, and then you ask about each movie. Is it a drama? And if it's true, the first part is kind of satisfied. And then you ask about the second part. Is the score is higher than 8? And if it's true, this is a perfect match. That means that this movie meets both parts, and it can be highlighted to you as one of the options that you can watch. And then you can, for example, filter out all other instances in your database of movies by using the simple logic. And we will see a lot that we will, for example, filter out some values in the data tables by using these logical data types. Some examples that you might already saw. For example, you already saw the Fantasus, right, app, web app for the visual explanatory analysis. Yeah, and basically there is some part when you want to, for example, filter out and keep only highly variable genes or highly expressed genes. And in this case, what's happening, you take each row, you calculate the average expression level, and then for each row you have the average expression level. And now you can say, for example, I want to keep only those genes which have average expression level higher than, let's say, 10. And you will filter out everything else. And for that, you will use Boolean data types. Yeah, and here sometimes we can, for example, perform some operations on another data types and get Boolean as a result. And very commonly we will see it when we try to compare different things. For example, we can try to compare whether two numbers are equal or not equal. These are like commands that we can use. For example, that one number is greater than another one, less than something, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. And these operations work with numbers and with strings. Again, I'll just create comparison.py, put it here, just like to show you the output. So basically, we are asking here, is 1 equal to 0? And we know that it's not true, and we got false. Then if we are asking that 1 is not equal to 0, it's true, we got true. 1 is greater than 0, it's true. And then so also it works with the strings. And how it works with the strings, basically, if we want to compare that the strings are equal, we can use equal. But in case if we want to check that some string, for example, less or equal, in this case we will compare them in the lexicographical order in the same way as you can see in the dictionary. For example, when you go through the words, there is a particular order that in the beginning you have the words which starts from A, in the end the word which starts from Z. And the idea is that there is a particular order, and because of that you can always compare two different strings. And for example, we are asking that alpha is less or equal than beta, and it's like true, because alpha is like in the dictionary supposed to be before the second part of our statement. Yeah, and so here also something interesting, because it can be very boring. You're like, okay, yeah, I know how to compare numbers. I know how to compare strings. I already know it. But the idea is that this is some basic things, but sometimes it can be tricky. For example, now if I'm like asking you, okay, is one gene is like greater than the other one, right? And in this case, we need to resolve what does it mean to be greater or equal than something else. And if some of you, for example, worked or like took some maths classes before, you can you can understand that in some particular set of objects there is no order. You cannot like right away to say that something is like greater or equal, and because of that, the idea is that we need to somehow provide the way to map, for example, the object to the real numbers. And then we are able to say like, okay, yeah, so let's say that we want to compare genes by the length, right? And then for each gene, we will have number which represents the length, and we can after that compare them. But right away, for some objects, it can be kind of, it doesn't make sense to compare them if we don't specify what kind of the part of the object, which feature we want to compare. Yeah, this is just like in which order operations are executed. Basically, the highest one is like if you want to exponentiate something, then in the same way. So basically, in the same way as it was in the school. I hope that nothing changed from that time. That first thing that we try to do is like multiply, divide, like divide, modulo operation, then plus minus, all type of the comparison operators, and then after that we have logical operations like not, and, or. In my case, if be honest, sometimes I can like messed up, forget about something, that something is like up or below, and in this case you can always enforce the order by using the just like parentheses. And then you, for example, you don't need to remember a relation between comparison operators and like logical operators. Usually it's like very clear, but sometimes you can just, to be very sure, you can put it there. Okay, guys, any questions? Or everything super clean? Okay. Nice. Now let's switch to another part. It's about variables, and this is a first key concept in the programming. And we will see along the course that we are trying to resolve one particular issue, or not trying to resolve it, but we are just trying to make something in some sense similar along the course. And the idea is that we don't want to write and repeat our code over and over again. And to do that, there are like a lot of different options how we can minimize our efforts and don't to repeat the same code over and over again. And the first concept that we can utilize, it's variables. Basically, for each object in Python, let's say that we have a string in this example, we can assign a name for it. In this case, it's like a little bit, maybe I supposed to call it another way, but we're saying that, okay, there is a name variable, and we assign like a real name, for example, Vladimir, to this variable. And why it's handy, later in the code, we can utilize this name over and over again. We don't need to always, for example, put the same string here. We can just like kind of refer to it through this tag. And yeah, so the idea is that now we can, for example, create a variable, put some, well, not put, but assign some value to the variable, and then reuse it inside of our program. You can think about it that you have, for example, let's say that we have, I'll create a new file, I'll call it like variables.py, and let's say that we have a reference of our genome. Just like some random, and I repeat it like 100 times. Let's just print ref. And now I'll just put some comments here. We don't need to think about it yet. We will see it like a little bit later. But the idea is we have our reference, which is a huge line. And I don't want to always copy and paste this line and put it here. I don't want to put it here. I don't want to put it here. And in this case, I can create a variable, just assign the value of the object to this variable, and then reuse it using the variable name. And so here we just like printed the reference, then we, for example, calculated the length of the reference, and then you can do a lot of different things. For example, you can check that something inside of the reference, and yeah, again, we will see about in operator later, but just like to give you the idea behind that this is one of the key concepts that we will use everywhere. And just like as a spoiler, also there are, for example, functions in Python. We will see functions. We will write our functions. There are modules and packages in Python. We will write our own modules, and even we will write our own like very simple package. And then at some moment we will talk about a little bit about the classes that also allow us to specify, like to put our code in very organized way and then reuse it to particular tasks. Yeah, and here are just some examples that we can create two values of numbers, and then we just using the names of that we assign to the objects and calculate different things. So let's put it here. I'll just remove this part. Okay. Value 1 is 101. And you can see that we performed the sum of two values. Then we reassigned value 1 to another value. Basically, you can see that in the beginning it was like 101, then we changed it to 0, and then now value 1 in the end is 0. So basically you can play around it, you can change values. There is a way how you can in one line specify multiple variables. You just need to put comma between the variable names. So on the left side there are variables names. On the right side of the equal operator there are values that we want to assign to the variable. So basically after this command you can see that x is user, y is 1, and z is a true. Yeah, also there is just like a nice part about Python, but I think that not everyone gonna appreciate it, because in some other like languages, for example, to perform this operation usually you need to create a sort variable and perform swapping by using the sort variable. In Python you can just use one line statement, x comma y is equal to y comma x, which is like very nice. So yeah, you can see that x and y before swap was 1 and 2, and after swap it's 2 and 1. Yeah, so there are some rules about Python variables that, for example, it's supposed to start with the letter or the underscore character. You cannot start with a number. We can just try, for example. Let's say that I want to 1x to be equal to 101 and print 1x. Yeah, and you can see right away my editor is highlighting me that there is some error. And yeah, syntax error, invalid decimal literal. So you should not start the variable name with a number. Yeah, variable name can contain only this set of the characters. This is basically letters, digits, and the underscore. And there is a difference between uppercase and lowercase. So yeah, as you can see, these are three different variables. So you should be aware about the case sensitivity. Yeah, and also you cannot utilize the Python keywords. If you open the Python keywords, you can see that there is a list of all Python keywords, and we shouldn't use them. For example, yeah, so for example, we cannot assign true, we cannot use true as a variable name. let's just check it. So let's say that true is equal to 101. Yeah. And you can see that this is again error. We should not use a keyword from Python. And in the end, so for today, let's just briefly look on the type conversion, because sometimes we need to convert, for example, string to number or number to string, or also number to Boolean data type, string to Boolean data type. And here is an example that so I'll create just a new file conversions. And let's say that we want to calculate 4 plus 2. And in this case, you can see that this is a string 4 and this is a string 2. And in this case, we will get, as a result, the 42 as a string. But what if we want to calculate it as a number? But in our hand, we just have strings. And in this case, you can write int to convert something, to try to convert something to int. And inside of the parentheses, specify the 4 and then int of 2. And basically, in this case, we will get 6. Because what we have done, we took 4, we converted, at least we tried to convert it to integer. And in this case, it works without any errors. And then we also tried to convert 2 to integer. We got 4 and 2 as numbers now, not strings. And we don't concatenate them, but we just like sum up them as numbers. Yeah, and here you can, for example, convert integer to float. To this, you need to use a float function, and then inside of the parentheses specify the integer that you want to convert. Then you have a float to integer. In this case, you will just like neglect the integer floating part of the number. So in this case, we have float number is 3.14, and after we printed integer number, which was converted to integer using the int, we will get just 3. This part will not be included. And we don't round up the number, we just like discard the whole floating part. Yeah, this is an example that you can convert string to int or float. And yeah, so, but in case if you, for example, try to convert some random string, sometimes it cannot be possible. If it's just like some letters, we cannot convert it to integer right away. There are some cases, for example, if you have a base of 16, then you can you can use A, B, C, D, E, maybe, I mean, you can utilize some of the letters. Yeah, you can convert any integer or float to string. And what is interesting here, usually it's about the truthy and falsy values. This one I want to copy and paste and show you. Basically, if we want to convert something to Boolean data type, if it's 0, for example, if it's a 0 is an integer, 0 is a float number, or empty string, in this case, when we convert it to the Boolean data type, we will get false. And these values, 0 and empty strings, called falsy values. But if it's not 0, and if it's not an empty string, then it's a true value after conversion. So let's just run it, and you can see that all these cases are false, but here we have all of them true. And later in the course, we will also face with lists, with the sets. And the idea is if something looks like as an empty thing, for example, empty list, empty set, after conversion to the Boolean data type, it's gonna be false Boolean value. And if it's not empty, then it's true. So guys, that's it for today. And if you have any questions, then yeah, please ask.